Over to Newcastle, this was a very surprising story as Newcastle player agents have been left in the dark after fees the club owed them were not paid on time. Pretty shocking for the richest club in the world, don't you think?
Well, yes, I was surprised myself when I saw that story, and it goes back to payments I think that were due back in September. So that is a surprise. The club are claiming it was sort of a mix-up, and there's some issues that invoices weren't rendered on time, etc. I've never come across that before in my time in football, and I know when I've been speaking to my financial team, we've always known when payments are due to agents, and they're always scheduled, and there should be no issues around it. I'm sure it's not to do with financial resources. I'm convinced it's not. I think it may well be that there's been delays in payments, but I don't think there's anything more than that. It's just paperwork, bureaucracy issues, because I don't feel there'll be any issues around the liquidity at Newcastle.
And Newcastle, on the flip side, will post club revenue of £286 million for this financial year. That's a new record for them. How come they're still struggling so much for PSR? Like, where does this money come from? Where has it gone? How is this all correlated?
Well, it's all about spending as well. It's all right to bring it in, but if you spend it just as quick as you're bringing it in, and they have spent a lot on players. It actually surprised me when I looked at how much has been spent, and it's a big number that Newcastle has spent. So that's really all it's about, is that they are bringing it in, yes, but they're also spending it very quickly. The squad's strong, but we know that they're really sailing close to the wind with PSR, and they've got to get their finger out on those sponsorship areas.
And Labour Minister said Mohammed bin Salman would have to go through an independent football regulators test. Is this a tricky situation given all the politics involved?
No, I think that's posturing from one of the politicians. I hate when we have politics involved as football. I've been saying this my whole career that I really don't like politicians getting involved in football because they tend to get involved around election time, and that's mainly when you hear from them. But to me, look, the decision's been taken about the Saudi investment in Newcastle. The time to question it was then. There's no reason why a regulator should ever get involved right now in terms of trying to go back retrospectively and look at ownership situations. And I think there would be hell to pay if a Labour politician was to get involved in that way. So the regulator's got a lot of issues. This is one thing where I could actually have sympathy for what Richard Masters said about the regulator having unintended consequences. Because here's an example that if this was to be a case that they went back and they asked the Crown Prince to undergo a different ownership test, then, who knows where that would lead to trade issues between Britain and Saudi, because there'd probably be tit for tat sort of things happening. So, look, in this case, I think the regulator can just stick to what they should be doing in terms of domestic politics. And, I think otherwise we're going to get ourselves in deep water from people who don't understand football.
And Newcastle is set to earn £1.5 million from the official fan zone this month. Is this a big boost to their profits if they could see this happen every month?
Yeah, look, it's great. I think that's it was a nice, it's called the Stack, I believe, at St James's Park. It's become pretty popular. It's hosting a number of events. And yes, I'm really pleased for them. They've been able to generate that sort of revenue. It is a good help, and it's good. But the thing is, there's bigger money to be made in sponsorships in Saudi and regionally around the globe. But certainly doing this domestically and creating a better sort of united central entertainment place for the fans is to be welcomed. Newcastle's a fantastic city for the night out and having some great fun. So I think this has just added to the whole situation. But yes, it's been a success, and I'm pleased for that. Along with the retail store they've opened, they've done a good job in trying to develop that revenue stream.
And you just mentioned Riyadh Air when we were talking about Chelsea. At what point will we see Newcastle take advantage of these new APT rules and make a big deal with a company like Riyadh Air that's backed by the Saudis, backed by their owners, get some real juice going?
Well, as I mentioned in the last chat, also the Saudis are rumoured to be buying Newcastle Airport. So you would expect things to be happening on the airline side at some stage. Look, if they've got to be working on all these things right now. I'd be amazed if they're not. And it's just going to be the timing of when they announce it. I do think there'll be some big news, as we've said, early in the new year about the new stadium. And I think there may be some other big announcements around that time, which would mean a whole package of different deals that could really provide some big news for Newcastle fans in the early new year.